Day, ladies and gentlemen. It is really wonderful to be with you today. My name is Mosebetsi Mofokeng. I'm an internal moderator for Geography, Paper 1. But today I'm going to talk about both papers, Paper 1 and Paper 2. We are not going to do content, but what we are going to do with you is just tips or how to prepare for examinations. What is it that we should be doing as teachers with our learners at this time of the year? This is a very crucial time of the year in which really our learners need our support, not only the support of us as their teachers, but even from their parents, guardians, whosoever is related to our learners should try by all means to support them at this time of the year. In preparation for the examinations, I would like to first start with our learners, that our learners at this time of the year should be 100% fit. In other words, they should be exam fit. They should be ready to write the exam. This is not the time of the year at which learners should start to prepare, but they should now demonstrate the knowledge that they have gained throughout the year. Maybe you're asking yourself a question as to what do I mean by exam fit? I mean our learners should be physically prepared. They should also be mentally as well as emotionally. That is why I said they need our support. They need the support of the community. They need the support of whatever organization, churches, and everybody should really at this time of the year support our learners. I have got few points that I would like to share with you in preparation for this coming examinations. First of all, as we prepare our learners, we should emphasize the fact that they should always try to be, or they should be punctual. They should always be on time when it comes to examination. That will help them to settle down before they start with their exam. That will give them enough time to peruse, to go through their exam paper, and this will give them a chance, if maybe a choice exists, to choose questions that they feel more comfortable with. And it is also very important as teachers that we should make sure that our learners do not enter the exam room for the first time on the exam day, but they should be put in that particular room a day or few days prior to the examination, so that they can get used to the environment in the exam room. That's very important. And secondly, our learners should go through the instructions. When they get the question papers, they must read and make sure that they follow the instructions. They should not just read the instruction for the sake of reading, but they should follow the instructions. For instance, in geography, you know we have got 4 questions, of which learners will have to answer only 3. So they will have to go through all 4 questions before they start, so that at least they can make an informed decision on which question or which questions to choose from the 4. That's very, very important instructions, and our learners should follow them. And this should be monitored throughout the year. Every time when we give our learners activities, whether formal or informal activities throughout the year, we should have instructions, and we should make sure that our learners follow the instructions. If the instruction is write a paragraph is not an essay. A paragraph is not a composition. A learner should not start by, I'm trying to emphasize not, by coming up with the introduction, the body, and the like. No. When you write a paragraph, you get straight to the point. You do not beat about the bush. You just get straight to the point. If you are asked to discuss something and the question will be briefly discuss, and fortunately we are very fortunate in geography because we even go to the extent of stating the number of lines, giving learners as to how many lines they should give. So the question will be briefly discuss what and what, or write 12 lines about this topic. So it's very important that you do not have to, but you get to straight to the point. And the other instruction is this one of numbering. Number the questions, your answers, as questions are numbered in the question paper. You do not have to come, learners should not come up with their own numbering, which is different from the numbering in the question paper. Because if learners number the questions differently, it makes it very difficult when it comes to marking, for the markers to know which question is which. But if learners can make sure that they number questions as they are numbered in the question paper, that makes the work of the markers and whosoever is responsible for the marking easier. And number 3, time management. You are now in the exam room and it is stated in the question paper or on the cover of the question paper that this is a 3-hour question paper. So you have got 3 hours to write 3 questions for 300 marks. That should be your starting point. And you should ask yourself a question as to how much time on each question. Right, so my common sense is telling me that because it is 300 marks, 3 hours, 3 questions, I would say my common sense is saying 1 hour per question. Will that be so practically? Yes, but sometimes you'll find yourself spending more time on, say, maybe you like question, or you have got more information on one of the 3 questions. Then you find out that at least you spend 10 extra minutes on that particular question because you are sure of what you are doing. But don't go as far as spending 1.5 hours on one question paper. You will not be able to finish. And at the end of the question paper or at the end of the given time, you will be halfway or not finished with your work. So put aside, budget your time, put aside your time. Say, I'm going to use so many minutes for this one, so many minutes for that one. Yes, the overlapping will be there, here and there, but do not spend most of your time on one question. The 4th point that I wanted to share with you is this one of handwriting. You know, most of our learners for FATE lose a lot of marks at the marking center because of their handwriting. Sometimes you'll come across a script where you'll find out that you are not able to see what the learner is trying to do. Not because the learner does not know the content, but because the handwriting of the learner is not legible. So, like we said earlier on, these things should not be only addressed during this time of the year. As teachers, we should always comment, make some remarks on the handwriting of our learners. If a learner is having a legible handwriting, comment and congratulate every time such a learner. Say, very good, keep on, keep up the good work. But if you find out that the learner's handwriting is very poor and not legible, try to help such a learner. As to how you are going to do it, you are a teacher, you know your learners, take them step by step. But what is important is that at the end of the day, markers should be able to make meaning of what our learners are trying to say. It is really heartbreaking when you are at the marking center and you see learners not getting what they deserve just because of their handwriting. So this should be emphasized throughout the year by our teachers. The next point that I wanted to highlight here is the fact that teachers should familiarize our learners with long questions. Our learners should not come across long questions only during examinations. They should be throughout the year, and the teacher should also train them as to how to approach long questions. Because the problem here is when it comes to long questions, our learners do not read the whole question. Most of them just go through the first part of the question and then start writing. And more often than not, you'll find them being being irrelevant, not responding, not answering the question. I will give you an example. Say a question is on a river pollution, and it starts by saying, river pollution is a serious challenge in South Africa. That's the first statement of the question. And then you'll find our learners, most of our learners, responding to that statement, coming up with causes of river pollution, what the government should do with those that are polluting our rivers. And that is not the question. The question is in the second statement, which says, briefly discuss the impact. You see? Briefly discuss the impact, maybe the impact of that pollution to the living organisms in the river, or the impact of that pollution on the communities living, staying around in the neighborhood of the river. But unfortunately, our learner did not read the whole question. He or she responded to the first part of that. And this should be, please, emphasized by our teachers throughout the year, that the learners should make sure that they get the question, not just to think that I know this pollution and then I'm just going to say whatever I know about it. No, look for the question. Here the question is, what will be the impact? What will be the effects? Then you respond to that. Right. I hope, because this is where most of our learners lose marks. Just imagine not responding to a question of 12 marks. And if you go through the responses of our learners, you'll find out that some of them are very good. Like, for instance, I cited an example of a river pollution that a learner, instead of answering the question on the impact, the learner is answering the question on the causes, which is not the question. You'll find a question going to town, elaborating on the causes of river pollution, and all those things are correct. But unfortunately, the learner is not responding, is not answering the question. So it is very important that we should coach our learners on the approach to long questions. And the next thing that I wanted to share with you as teachers is on the terms or concepts, words that we use in geography. You will remember in the example that I've just made, I made mention or use of the concept or term impact. It is very important that we familiarize. And you will remember when we were giving you the moderator's report at the beginning of the year, we also recommended that learners should be encouraged to develop their own glossaries. In other words, if they come across a new word or a new concept in the classroom, they should put it down in their own glossary and define it, because this makes it easier at the end of the year when they do revision. They don't read, they don't revise someone else's work. They revise their own and their own definitions in their own ways. So throughout the year, when we formulate questions, let us use these concepts. Let us have concepts like sustainability, concepts like impact, effect, food security, food insecurity, buffer zone, etc. Our learners should be familiar with this concept, and they should know exactly what they mean. And they will only be able to know this if they have all this information in their glossary, the self-developed glossary that they can use at any time. Like I said, these books are very important at this time of the year, because a learner will be revising what he or she has done himself or herself. The next point will be, when we give you question papers, we also provide learners with what we call an annexure. That is where we have got the diagrams, we have got landforms, we have got maps, and all this have got a lot of information built in them. So our learners should make it a point that they read annexures. I'm going to show you an example of an annexure here. You will find out that you have got landforms, you have got a map, and then if you check here, you'll find out that it is written here. Okay, there is a lot of information here, right? So our learners should not just look at this and take it for granted that they know these things. Read as to what is written here. That will help you to answer questions based on these landforms. So it is very, very, very important. You do not only have to rely on your memory when the answers are provided. In other words, you should use the annexure as a source for your information to respond to your questions. And what we are trying to do with annexures, we are trying to come up with very clear annexures with all the necessary information. We do not only provide learners with the annexure or the maps and the landforms and the cartoons. Sometimes we even give learners extracts, some information from somewhere where a learner will have to read that extract to be able to respond to the questions. Very important. Learners should use annexures to their benefit. They should make sure that annexures are made to help them perform better. Like for instance, in climatology, you will come across a synoptic weather map. And if you read a synoptic weather map, this is just a piece of what is this occlusion, as you can see. Yeah. So if you read a synoptic weather map, you will find out that answers are there. They will ask you about the direction, they will ask you about the pressure, they will ask you about all those things. And then if you are observant enough as a geography learner, you will be able to respond to those questions successfully because the answers are there. So our advice is that as teachers, we should, by all means, encourage our learners to use annexures to their benefit, to use the annexures in such a way that they help them at the end of the day to perform better. Right? As it is with all these other types of questions, when it comes to annexures, your learners should be used to the use of annexures. They should not also see these things for the first time in the exam room. When you give them tests throughout the year, common papers, you must make sure that they are always accompanied by annexures so that they should not struggle at the end of the year as to how to read or how to understand or how to use an. Very important that our learners get used to that. Yeah, and then the next point is that as teachers, our learners can follow all these tips. We can show them how to use annexures. We can tell them about punctuality. We can tell them about the instructions and they follow them. We can tell them about time management. But if they do not have enough knowledge, and I want you to underline that as teachers, if our learners do not have enough geographical knowledge, they will not be able to cope. They will not be able to answer these questions. So, what do I mean by that? I simply mean that as teachers we should make sure that our learners have enough knowledge. In other words, we should cover the content meant for grade 12. We should make sure that at this time of the year we are just revising what we have done throughout the year. And what we have done throughout the year covers everything that our learners should know. And this takes us back to the point that we made earlier on, that our learners should be 100% prepared for examination. They should be 100% mentally fit to sit and write examination. And if a learner knows that they have covered everything in the class throughout the year. Such a learner will have what we call self-confidence. You know, he will not or she will not doubt himself or herself when it comes to examination. You will see such a learner even in the exam room, that this learner is really prepared and ready to sit for this examination. These are but some of the tips that I wanted to share with you as teachers on paper 1 for 100 marks. If our learners can follow this, if our learners can implement and apply these tips, you will see at the end of this year, the beginning of next year, when results are announced, we will be where we are this year. You will remember we are second in the country. So this year we will move up to position 1 and take it away from Gauteng. Right. Now we are going to look into paper 2. Paper 2, our paper 2 is map work and geographical information systems, GIS. Like I indicated earlier on when I was talking about the first paper, that everything should be done. This paper, the work that should be covered for paper 2 should also be done. Map work as well as the GIS. Because learners are given 1.5 hours in the afternoon of the very day, where they are expected now to apply the theory that they know. In the morning, it was theory. Learners were reproducing, giving back what they have learned. Now, in the afternoon of the very day, learners are now given a chance to apply that knowledge. These papers are written on the same day because they complement each other. The first one is theory and the second one is a practical type of a question paper where a learner will have to apply the knowledge. So here we are going to start with the topographical map. I'm sure we are all familiar with the topographical map. This is the map that I'm talking about. You know the topographical map with a scale there of 1:50,000. This is our scale. So this is our topographical map. So when learners are given a topographical map, it is very, very, very important that the first thing that they should do is also to read the instructions as to how to go about. Right? Secondly, if the question says calculate something, you look at the units that are used there. If the question says give your answers in kilometers, make sure that you give your answers in kilometers. If you are calculating area, then it will have to be in square. If you are talking about direction, say for instance in the case of magnetic declination, you will have to indicate, our learners will have to indicate whether the magnetic declination is to the west or to the east. But what we know, and I want you to note this, is that the magnetic declination, I will come back to this one later on, that magnetic declination is always west of the true north. If you check here, magnetic one is always west of. So even if there can be a movement, it never crosses over to this side, never. It will always be on this side, either to the east towards the true north or to the west away from the true north. So you should also indicate that magnetic declination in such a year was so many degrees, minutes and seconds west. Very important, because if you don't indicate, markers will not know whether you are to the east or you are to the west. Don't say it is obvious because it always west. No, indicate, show it that it is west of the true north. This is our true north, so it is always west of the true north. So when learners are given a topographical map like this, as you can see, this is our topographical map here, right? And then outside the frames of the topographical map here, there is a lot of information. And not only here, but even on this side here, look here. All this information is very important, and our learners will need it. Will need it to answer, to respond to some of the questions. So it's very important that when they get a synoptic weather map, they should, not a synoptic, a topographical map, they should go through all this information outside the frames here. These are the conventional signs. They should check the conventional signs here. You see, these are the conventional signs. They should check and familiarize with this. All this, they are written in both Afrikaans and English. They should check the exact position of the place on the topographical map. They should check the information on magnetic declination. They should check the information on the contour intervals here. You see this one here, the contour intervals. They should check all this information here. All this information. That's the first thing. They familiarize themselves with the information outside the frames of the topographical map. And then they also look at the scale. Here is our scale. This is our ratio scale. Here it is. This is our scale. And then we also have our line scale here. You see, they should also look at the line scale. They look at the one at the top there. 1:50, 1:50,000. I've already referred to the contour lines. This is our contour lines here, and then this is the contour interval. It is given here that our contour interval here, the space between the two contours, is 20 meters. They should know this, so that when they are being asked the question, what is the contour interval here, they should not struggle to look for a contour interval in the map here. It is given here. Just take it from here. The contour interval is 20 meters. And then they should also look at the true north, and where possible, our learners should orientate the map. In other words, their north should point to the true north. That will make it easier for them when they are asked about the directions here in the map. When they are being asked, say, point A, what is the direction of point B from point A? They should be able to see that that is on the east of that, or west of that, or north or south of that particular point. So they should make sure that they know that. They should also look at the magnetic north. As you can see here, we have got our true north, and we have our magnetic north, which is west of the true north, always west of the true north. And they should also check on the information on the magnetic declination. Information is given here. Okay, they should read this, that mean magnetic declination is 23 degrees 33 seconds west of true north. And that was in July 2002. That was in July 2002. Very important. Like I indicated earlier on, always west of true north, right? And this magnetic declination is not static, but it is always changing position, and the movement is either to the west or to the east. So in this case, the mean annual change, the average change, is 6 minutes westwards. That was from 2000 to 2005. So it's very important. The movement is westwards. So if magnetic declination is, the change is to the west, or the movement is to the west, look here. This is our true north. This is our magnetic north, and this is the space between here is the magnetic declination. So if the magnetic, this one, the change is to the west, it means that the angle between the true north and magnetic north is becoming bigger. So what does that mean? It simply means that when it comes to the final answer, when you are giving a magnetic declination, when the change is to the west, you add. Okay, when the change is to the west, you add, because the angle is becoming bigger and bigger. All right. But if the magnetic, say, for instance, the change was to the east here, right? The angle was going to become smaller and smaller. So what was going to happen when it comes to the final answer of your the calculation of your magnetic declination? You were just going to subtract, because the angle is becoming smaller. Very, very important. The second thing that our learners should look at when they are given or working with topographical maps is, or are the coordinates. You see, when you look here on the frames of our maps, there are numbers. Here is 18 degrees 47 minutes, and then here we have got 33 degrees 37 minutes south. Then if you read here, this is situated at 33, here is 33, and the first two are always referring to the south. So this is south. This is this direction, in other words, south, all right? And then this one, 18 dB is to the east. And the dB there is the exact position. You remember what I said when we started? I said you should also look here. You see here, this is the position. This is the position of this place, PAL. This is the position of PAL. dB 3118 dB. This is the exact position. That is why it is given like that here on top of your map. So it's very important that our learners familiarize themselves with coordinates. And these coordinates are numbered, all right? To the east, alphabetically, you see, A up to H, that is to the south, all right? And then to the east, you look there up to 13. So the question will be, if we want them to identify something in this block here, you see this block, right? We will say, the question will say, in block, you see, which block is it? This is block C6 or 6C. You see, that is the block in which that is found. So our learners should know that this information outside the frames will help them a lot in responding to the questions. Right? Very important. All topographical maps that we use in South Africa are south of the equator. Why south? Because they are of South Africa. They are from South Africa. Most of the maps that we use here in South Africa, topographical maps that we use here in South Africa, are the maps of South African towns or places. Right? So South Africa is situated south of the equator. That is why always south. And then east of the Greenwich Mean Time. This is the east when you move in this direction. That is the east. So it is always south and east. So when you come across this number here, you see, you should just know that the first one is south and the second one is east of the Greenwich meridian, right? And then the topographical map is always accompanied by an orthophoto map, right? This is the orthophoto map of the very same place. But what is important about the orthophoto map is that the orthophoto map does not cover the whole area covered by the topographical map. This covers a very small part of this area. Look at what we have here. You see here, this block. This block here. This block. At this corner. This is what is covered by the orthophoto map. It is even written here. Area covered by orthophoto map. Right. So the area covered by the orthophoto map, here this is our orthophoto map, is smaller than the area covered by the topographical map. So it's very important that you look at the two, and more importantly, you look at the scales. Look at the scales. Look at what we have here. Remember, this is our orthophoto and this is our topographical map. So the scale on the topographical map is 1:50,000, right? And then on the orthophoto is 1:10,000. Now you look at the two scales. Which one is bigger and which one is smaller, right? So this scale, 1:50,000, is smaller than this one. This is a bigger scale. What do we mean by a bigger scale? We mean features in this map. You see in this photo, features here, all right, are bigger than features here. In other words, this one is more accurate. You can see features here. What is it? You can see the features here that you cannot see on this one. So the bigger the number here, you look at this number, the bigger the number here, the smaller the scale, all right? The smaller the number, like in the case of our orthophoto, the smaller the number, the bigger the scale. And you'll find out that here on the topographical map, there is a lot of what we call exaggeration, because the scale is so small and the features are so small, so that for us to be able to see them, they will have to be taken out of their actual size. But on this one, yes, there is exaggeration, but relatively lesser than on the topographical map. So you compare the two scales, the scale on this one and the scale on that one, and that will give you an idea of the size of the area covered by the orthophoto map. And it is very important that when you are using an orthophoto, when you are trying to identify features here, all right, because this is black and white, as you can see, it's not color. It's very important that you use it together with this one. If you are trying to identify a feature on the orthophoto, you come back to here, because this is the area covered by the orthophoto map. So if you want to identify a feature there, you come back here, because here is clearer, is color, and even the key is given even not only the key, but also the conventional signs to help you to identify these features here. Then you take this information to respond to a question on the orthophoto map. On the orthophoto map, because here it is not clear. This is it's black and white. Very important that our learners should be able to use both maps at the same time. Sometimes you will find out that a learner is not able to identify or recognize a feature on the topographical map. You remember the reason here? We said this is color, very clear, but there is one shortcoming. What is the shortcoming? The scale. Features here are too small. So we'll find out that the learner will see a feature. So sometimes, if a feature falls within this area, the area covered by the orthophoto map, if it falls here, right, and this learner is not able to see whether this is a cemetery or this is a church or this is a golf course, all right, so a learner can just come to the orthophoto map because it's bigger, so a learner will be able to see, no, this is an open space. It should be, you see, it gives them a clue as to what that should be. In other words, they use both these maps to respond to questions, both on the orthophoto and the and the topographical map. Right. And then the next thing that I want us to come to is now inside the map. All right. You have looked on the outside here, all this information outside. Now you are getting into the map here. You are coming now here into the map, right? And then the first thing that you look at is the general build of your topographical map. That will help you to determine the direction of the flow of most of our rivers in there. And then, like I said earlier on, you have already looked into your coordinates. You are now going to look at whether the general color of your map. You see, this one, if you look at this one, you can just have a close look at this one. You'll find out that it is greenish in color. It is greenish in color. In other words, this is not a dry place. But if you check here, right? But here, right? If you check here, you'll find out that it's different from this, right? Why? You see, look at the contours here. Look at the contours. Look at the contour lines. The build here. This is mountainous. Yeah, this is mountainous. So there is nothing taking place here. But if you look down here, there are lots and lots of vineyards. This is, by the way, Western Cape. Yeah, this is Western Cape. So if you look here, you find out that yes, this land is used all around this place, and it is greenish in color. All right, it's greenish in color. It shows that they do not have shortage of rainfall. Yes, although there are, if you look here, what is this? This is a windmill. You see a windmill here, or in pipe, right? Yes, they use it to tap water from the underground water. But generally speaking, this is not a dry area. This is not a dry area. It is shown by, the color, the general color. It's shown by dams. All over there are dams. You also look at the type of rivers here, whether they are perennial or non-perennial or seasonal rivers, and then you find out that most of them, if you have a close look at this, most of them are flowing throughout. Let me check just to make sure. Yes, throughout the years, most of them are flowing throughout the year. So this is generally not a dry area. So this is the information that I wanted to share with you on the two papers of Geography Paper 1, Theory, and Paper 2, Practicals. And if you can just be observant enough as a geography learner, if our geography learners can just be observant enough, they will get good marks in this paper, in paper 2, because in paper 2 everything, almost everything, is given either outside or inside the frames of our topographical map, right? And then the last thing that we should do as teachers is to do, I do not know whether to call it a favor, do our learners a favor by teaching them now inside here calculations. We know that our learners will be asked to calculate gradient, right? Our learners will be asked to calculate distance, say from point A to point B. Our learners should know the formula. Our learners should know the formula for a gradient. Our learners should be able to interpret a gradient, whether it is a steep slope or a gentle slope. That will be shown by the final answer that they will get. And those are some of the things that our learners should know and in preparation for the examinations on paper 1 and paper 2. If there are any questions insofar as this is concerned, we will take them and try to see as to how far we can go. The only thing that we can do or say from our side to our teachers is that we wish them, everything of the best at this time of the year. We are all panicking. We are all expecting to see good results, to get good results at the end of this year, especially in geography with the good performance of last year, 2012. Thank you very much.